Hello again, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. So, influencers come in all shapes and sizes, and even ages. But if you look at influencers in general, then you'll often find an underserved market and audience, which continues to be the consumers who are middle aged, especially those with disposable income. But retail is changing more and more towards more digital. So, where do brands go to take advantage of that? Where are the influencers speaking to their audience? Cathy Williamson is a fashion and lifestyle blogger of the Middle Page who is also featured on NBC Nightly News with a story about the changing face of retail as well as her success as an influencer. And on this episode, we'll discuss influencer marketing, how it's changing retail and fashion, what authenticity really means, Kendall Jenner, creating loyal followers, Instagram, and most importantly, fighting cancer. So let's tune in to an influential middle-ager with a shark who is just so young at heart on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Cathy, thank you so much for joining me today on A Shark's Perspective. So tell us a little bit about your background and your story to date.
Hi, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
having me on. And I'm so excited to do this.
Yeah,
And I've so enjoyed getting to know you.
absolutely.
Um,
Same here.
so good. I actually really and truly, before I started my blog, I my big career was being a mom,
Hmm.
and I was a stay-at-home mom. And I when my kids were when the last one was in high school, I started working with a PR firm when I lived in Birmingham, and I was a photo stylist, and just have always loved fashion and design, home interiors. So I did that, and then we moved to Dallas, and tried to start I did start a rainwear line. And I was really got it all manufactured, figured it all out, and it was called She Rains. And during that time, I also thought about starting a blog because there wasn't anybody my age at the time that was writing about fashion for women
Hmm.
over a
Well, no,
certain
wait.
age.
So, certain age, you're an influencer then, that which makes you what, between 18 and 28?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll go with that.
Okay.
We'll go with that. Sure. I love it.
Yeah.
No, over 50. But I'm not your typical, I wasn't your typical young influencer for sure.
Hmm.
But I just decided I was going to do it. And then in between, so I had some help and started my blog. And then um, 2 months into it, I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer.
Mm.
And so, therefore, the rainwear line went by the wayside because I I couldn't
Priorities.
do
Right.
that. And then I also thought about, here I was 2 months into my blog. Well, great. I guess I won't be doing that anymore. But my daughter said, "Nope. This is your calling. This is what you're going to do." And so I started my blog really and truly, I guess, when I was going through breast cancer.
Hmm.
And it was very cathartic. And I just kind of told my story, what was going on in my journey during that time, but also still talked about fashion.
And the blog is called The Middle Page. So,
It's
where'd you.
called the middle page.
Very,
Yes.
very good and clever name. So,
Well, I can't take credit for it. My daughter actually came up with that, and she has such a creative mind. And so when I was trying to come up with the name, I said I needed something that sounded like, for middle-aged women. And she said the middle page, and I went, well, that's it. So that's what it was called.
how did you get out of becoming a mommy blogger to be making this thing beyond a hobby into a real business? Where did that sort of start as you started developing your flock and your following?
Well, okay, so when you first start off blogging, y- it really kind of did start as a hobby, I
Hmm.
guess, just because I wanted a place where I could go in and talk about fashion, and then, in the back of your mind, you are thinking, I hope I do get at some point partnerships,
Hmm.
and collaborations. So it did take a while, maybe 2 years, a year and a half of blogging full time, that I really started um, getting some deals with, with
Hmm.
collaborations. And that's when I'd say a year and a half to 2 years is when it kind of took off. But I also was accepted 6 months into having my blog into a platform called Reward Style.
Yeah.
And so Reward Style is like an affiliate. So anyway, how blogging works, if you're when you want to make money, doing this,
Hmm.
is if you can get with an affiliate link like, or affiliate company like Reward Style.
Hmm.
When we write a post and we link an item, and whoever's reading it clicks on that item, it takes you to, say, for instance, Neiman's,
Hmm.
and the person clicks on the item and purchases it, we get a commission.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. So that's how I was monetizing it, you know, at the beginning.
Sure.
And then I started getting I was started, people started reaching out to me about collaborations, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Then for the audience, Kathy was featured on the NBC Nightly News in a piece that, luckily didn't involve crime, a measles outbreak, or problems in the Middle East. So, congratulations alone on that. But
Thank
they
you.
ran a story about how influencer marketing was changing the face of retail, and they featured you and Amber Vinsbox from Reward Style. And as I was preparing, it just so happened that I was preparing a PowerPoint presentation for a conference where I was presenting some things about influencer marketing, and that's how we connected. But obviously, NBC Nightly News still has a huge audience. What kind of feedback did you do receive from there?
It was so nice because so Amber Venn's Box
Mm-hmm.
and her husband Baxter are the ones that started Reward Style. And they were, I mean, they had just been out of college. And Amber was an influencer, and they wanted to come up with a system where influencers could be paid for what they did,
Mm-hmm.
because at the time nobody was doing that. And so when Reward Style found out about this interview that was going to happen with NBC Nightly News, they called me and they said they want to talk to you. And I was like, what? Why me? But I think that my story maybe caught their attention, that I was a cancer survivor and I did reinvent myself in my 50s,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I
Which is
mean,
something they lovingly put on there. They love to put on your
yes,
age.
they
So
did. Yes, they did, didn't they? They
yeah,
just like they had to put that right up at the beginning
yeah,
too.
exactly.
No hiding from me for my
I'm
age
surprised they didn't put
anymore.
your social security and
I
your
know.
dress size. So
I know. But anyway, I mean, you know what? I used to lie about my age all the time. And I just, after having cancer, I
yeah,
just don't do it anymore.
yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? I'm so lucky that I'm here. And so I'll tell my age. But I don't love to say it, but I will tell it.
Let's talk then a little bit about retail. Your
Okay.
where do you see the value of influencers in retail, and honestly, where do you just sort of see retail going?
That's so interesting because I think retail, and I'm kind of sad about this, but I think retail is going towards Instagram. I mean, really, and it's all going to be digital, a lot of it, and
Hmm.
I am really sad about that
Yeah.
because I think brick and mortar, the brick and mortar stores are going to really suffer. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's projected to go that way. So, I
Well, it
and I'm
depends on what kind of experience that a lot of them create too.
true, but I love to go in and touch and feel
Yeah.
still, to see what it feels like. But as far as an influencer helping with the retail side, I think if you look at an influencer being sort of like your own personal shopper,
Hmm.
whoever you follow, whatever style that you decide is what you like, we're sort of like we're sort of your personal shopper.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of my blogger friends and that I do this as well. If somebody sends me a message and says, "Hey, I saw this purple jacket that you had on, but I can't find it, and I really liked it. Do you have any, do you have a suggestion of something else?" I will go in and search for it, or try to find just a similar item and send it back to him. So I think if you think of it that way, I mean, you're basically getting free personal shopping
Right.
if you look at it that way. And we're doing the legwork,
Exactly.
like putting up like Mother's Day guides or Christmas gift guides. We're giving you, suggestions. So it kind of like takes the pressure off of you having to look for look yourself.
Hmm. Well, one of the things that I know we talked about, and I think it's disturbing how many brands are throwing money into influencer marketing, but they don't necessarily pull out the best strategy. And you and I had spoken about this earlier, and I'd love for you to kind of elaborate your thoughts a little bit further on perfect example of Estee Lauder, which a
Oh,
couple of years
right.
ago, launched a skincare makeup line. They decided to really, I think, focus on not necessarily younger women, but women that had some wrinkles and trying to help
Mature skin.
mature skin. Thank you. And
Hmm.
they decided to pick a very mature model in, if you consider it in teenage years, but it was with Kendall Jenner, who they ended up ditching Kendall Jenner a couple of years later, which I'm sure she's going to do just fine after that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about her.
I think they got rid of their creative director as well, but talk a little bit about what that means to you as an influencer, or what kind of advice you give brands when they look about coming to you or to to any other influencer for helping launch a brand, because I've seen this happen so many times where you don't even remember who they replaced Kendall Jenner with. You just remember the big botch
And
that the brand
that
had.
that's so interesting because I totally remember that ad.
Yeah.
And like you said, I don't know who they
Yeah.
can't even tell you who they replaced her with, but I totally remember her. And it was
I think
so
she
I
was
just remember
21 at the time they got rid of her, which is obviously the ripe old age when nobody
when
has a
she has a
wrinkle.
ton of wrinkles,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
No, but I just remember thinking when I saw that ad, that's so insulting. That they would choose her to talk about mature skin. I thought it was so insulting. I think as far as like I think the brand has to be sure of what they are trying to sell and look at who is going to sell that for them, and who what influencer or what model or whatever is going to resonate with the brand. And I think, I think when I've talked to different brands, it's sort of like, you have to say, well, okay, it might be a home brand, and it may be a more upscale home brand. So I think my age, from 40 up, is if it's upscale home brand, well, I think that's who you want to target, is this age group, right? So I think a brand has to be really secure in what they are, who they are, and what they're trying to sell. And really think about, well, if I get a 20-year-old to push this skincare product, it better be for a 20-year-old skin,
Yeah.
you know? So I think brands are kind of waking up to this a little bit more, and thinking, well, you know what? It used to be youth, youth and sex is what sells, right? But I think that we as a society, I guess, and especially older people, are getting kind of sick of that, and we're like, no, that's not it. So if this is making
No,
sense,
it does. I mean, if I was just
I
sitting
I,
here
I
thinking, youth and sex is typically what's used to sell, but youth and sex is not necessarily who your buyers are.
exactly. So you got to think about who the buyer
Yeah,
is.
God forbid anybody listen to their customers.
Right. So, and I think that they're starting to realize this, and I think that I'm seeing it more with some of the brands that I've been working with, and like I'm doing something with L'Oreal, and it's for a mature skin, so they're gonna pick, hopefully pick somebody that's has a mature skin. So I think, I'm starting to see this more, and I think it's great. And I think, and you know what? That goes back to authenticity. So the brand needs to be authentic too, So I just think it's slowly making its way around. Hopefully.
Well, one of the things that really interests me that you and I talked about when we first dialogued about doing this was also authenticity. And so much of the typical influencers in the world today, you don't necessarily scream authenticity when you see it. It looks very fake and staged and everything else, as fashion can do. And in that industry where you're standing out as someone who's being a lot more real with who you are and what you've gone through now, how do you think that has helped, and what kind of advice would you give? I mean, obviously you wouldn't encourage anybody to ever go through breast cancer, but
No.
obviously, what kind of advice? I mean, that's obviously been something that's been big for you, in the kind of things that people really flock to you because of your authenticity. What kind of advice do you give then others that are trying to do the same thing on how to be better at being authentic without just putting air quotes and saying authentic around it?
Well, I think first of all, I think that I I just am I feel like I am authentic, and I think that I will just, I mean, I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe does come with age, being more, I guess, feeling better about yourself
Mm-hmm.
and not really caring so much anymore about trying to impress, and like I just remember
Such
it
a great
being in
point.
my 20s. I remember feeling like I had to um, impress, and trying to get people's attention or whatever. And I think when you get older, there's wisdom, you're tired of it, you don't want to do it anymore. And I think that maybe the age has something to do with that
Mm-hmm.
as well. But I've always been that kind of person where I've just kind of like told my life. I mean, I know there are people that are private and don't like to tell, but I'll tell you anything you want to know
Sure.
about me. But about being authentic, and I know we talked about it before, but how on, like, for instance, Instagram, how a lot of photos and a lot of all of this Instagram world looks so perfect, and it's just a lot of it's set up, a lot of it's staged,
Mm-hmm.
to look that way. But we're all human. We all have problems. And if somebody says their life is perfect and they don't have a problem, then they're just flat out lying, because I mean, we all have problems. And it's so funny because recently, on Instagram, really in the last couple days, people that I follow, I've watched their stories, and I've seen probably a handful of people talking about how Instagram looks so perfect. Everybody's lives look so perfect, but that's just a little corner of, a table or whatever, that's somebody took a photo to make it look like that, to make it look perfect. But if you move back, there's clutter around, whatever's going on that's not perfect behind the scenes. And it's just like life. I mean, there's nothing that's perfect, and we're all flawed, and we're all going to have problems. And so I'm okay with saying that I am flawed. I have problems. My life is not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to follow somebody that's perfect or says they are, I might not be the right person to follow,
Agreed. Agreed.
you know?
That's a great point. It's, and I think that the problem that exists, especially with influencers, is like a problem that a lot of marketers have today is they mimic everything else. And if you're an authentic you and work to show the differences in strictly who you are, you'll never be copied. And I don't know understand why everybody wants to copy everything. And
I don't either. I don't either, because I think being unique is amazing,
exactly.
just, and we all are. I mean, we all have different things that make us who, different exciting, wonderful things that make us unique, and we should be, we should appreciate that and be celebrating that.
Yeah, well, as long as you don't get too old, me either, to yell at kids to get out of your yard,
Yeah.
then we'll be okay. But then let's talk a little bit about reward style, kind of unpack that a little bit more, and really a little more into the monetization. As an influencer, how is this kind of program, how has it really grown your income to where this is not just a hobby and it's a business?
Well, thankfully I have some really loyal um, readers
Yeah.
for my blog, and most of my income comes through my blog. So I would say that 90, maybe 85% of my income does come through my blog, and Reward Style has helped me in that way because, like I said before, whatever I link, if I link something and a reader goes in and purchases it, I get a commission from that. So in order to make a lot of money, you have to have a lot of followers who
Hmm.
are purchasing. And thankfully, my age group, I'm gonna give another plug for the over 40 group, but we do have the disposable income
Hmm.
that most 20-year-olds don't have. And so that's been really great in for me as far as monetizing through Reward Style. And they've been a huge, I mean, just an amazing partner for me, actually. But I just think that it just takes time as well. So when as when an influencer starts off, and I've had several people that are friends or whatever that will call me that have started blogs, and they'll say, "When am I going to make money?" I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 calm down. It's going to take some time. This just does not happen overnight,
Hmm.
and it's something that you have to work really hard at. And if I don't post, I don't make money." But the flip side of that is that as great as it is making money, that's not my that's not my I mean, it's not really my top goal, I guess,
Hmm.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
What is your
I
top goal then?
My top goal is to really to be an influence to um to be an influence, I guess, and to inspire women, especially my age women, to to dress how you want to dress, um, to have confidence over this this age that we all are in now, and also it's to really to help women who are going through breast cancer.
Hmm.
So I do I do post to make money because it is hard work, and when I write a blog post, it generally takes me about 4 hours
Wow.
to get
Yeah.
from time of the time I start at load the photos, and that's not counting having the photos taken, pulling the clothes. That doesn't count that part, but it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work, and I think a lot of people look at this influencing as maybe just a hobby or just a little part-time thing, and
Hmm.
I get it because it's just kind of like it's such a new thing, but it can be, and really for me it is kind of a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we had spoken about previously that I absolutely loved when you described, I wish you'd kind of revisit that, but one of the things that's really important to you is deeper meaning stories. And I love the idea in the description. What does that mean to you when you're telling deeper meaning stories with what you're doing in the influencer world?
I think it means like just being real and like we said before, real and authentic and
Mm.
coming out and saying, you know what? I might have had a bad day, or I've been sick, or, you know, whatever it is, but just being.
It doesn't just have to be, I just got back from the Riviera.
No, which is
Exactly.
I mean, which you see a lot of, and I mean, like I'm trying to figure out how some of these young girls that I follow, I'm like, how are they traveling all the time and how are they, I don't get it. But I think it's just it is being just more authentic and saying, I posted the other day on my blog that I had gone to Austin um, on Monday because my daughter had done her first mammogram at 31 because she wanted a baseline, and she was called back because they saw a calcification on the mammogram, and so they called her back, and it scared her to death because that's how they discovered mine.
Hmm.
My cancer was through a calcification. So I went to Austin with her, because she was just like, Mom, will you please come with me? And it turned out everything was okay, but I did put it on my blog because I was like, you know what? This is what's happening. And then it's also another reminder that I can say to people, the women that are reading my blog, listen, be sure that you get yourself checked. Be sure that
Hmm.
you guys are doing this and getting, checking yourselves, getting your mammograms. And not only for yourselves, tell your daughters, tell them, this does not, the kind that I had does not discriminate in age. So therefore, there are women in their 20s being diagnosed with this.
Hmm.
So tell your daughters, tell your granddaughters. I mean, just knowledge is power.
This is, going to be an odd way to transition to a close. But Cathy, you're not too far from the shores of Corpus Christi and the Texas Riviera, even though I know you, like me, prefer the redneck Riviera in Northwest
Yes,
Florida.
I
But
do.
but because of the name of the show and my nickname, I have to ask, what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
My favorite kind of shark,
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not really a shark person. Okay, I'm going to say a
You
nurse
are on a
shark.
shark's perspective,
I know,
and
a
my
nurse
nickname is
shark.
Shark,
I know,
a
a
nurse
nurse
shark.
shark.
Okay,
Yeah, and I don't know because I just think they're out of all of them, I think they're kind of the cutest one.
okay, closest to a catfish. So,
Yeah,
well, Cathy, it is that special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
go for it.
All right, here we go. Number one, blogger or influencer?
Influencer.
Number two, Dallas Cowboys or any other team on the planet, and none of those are an acceptable answer.
Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you. Number three, Estee Lauder or Kendall Jenner?
Estee Lauder.
Good. Number four, Instagram or Pinterest?
Pinterest.
Number five, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
Hey,
I'm
living in
gonna
a
go with
Texas chili.
I'm gonna go with biscuits.
Why biscuits?
Just because I like them
Yeah.
better. I like them better. And you know what? I think it's because I lived in the South for so long,
Yeah.
like the deep South for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's biscuits. Plus, you can put jelly and honey all over
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's true. So, Cathy, where can people find out more about you, social channels, read the blog, and more?
Okay, so you can find my blog is www.the dash or hyphen middle page.com. On Instagram, I am the middle page blog. And I think the same for Facebook and Twitter as well.
And I know how often you check LinkedIn, which is about every six
Not,
months.
not,
So,
yeah, about every single, yeah,
so
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I'm not a big, I'm on it, but I'm not a big LinkedIn. Like I don't check it very often.
yeah,
So
you got it. All right. Thank you so much, Cathy, for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
listen, listen, you are so nice, and I am so honored that you even reached out to me. And thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed it.
So there was my conversation with Cathy Williamson, a fashion and lifestyle blogger of the Middle Page, who was also featured on NBC Nightly News with a story about the changing face of retail, as well as her success as an influencer. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, authentic is a word that all marketers throw around way too much today, but how do you go about being authentic is a much more critical question. How much of what you see on Instagram with influencers looks or seems authentic to you? I'm guessing not very much at all. Sometimes authenticity comes with age, maybe it's wisdom, but quite frankly, a lot of it comes from feeling better about yourself, and sometimes the need to impress goes away and you're just who you are. A problem that exists with a lot of influencers is also like a problem that a lot of marketers have, in that they try to mimic everything. Don't do that to be authentic. Don't stage it to look real. Be a unique brand, one that isn't so staged. So I'll quote me for a change: if you're an authentic you and work to show the differences in strictly who you are, then you'll never be copied. Great point, Shark. Second, it is so important for a personal influencer or a corporate brand to create loyal followers. Your audience is gold. Know what channel works best for those followers and feed it with what they want. For a lot of Cathy's followers, for example, you should remember that for some people, sometimes influence is not about making money only. As Cathy described for herself, a higher calling to her is sometimes about helping people dress the way they want to dress, help people feel more comfortable with their age, and most importantly, help other people who are going through breast cancer. God bless and never give up that fight. Third, and a warning to brands, you have to get the right kind of influencer, especially if it's for a high-profile campaign. Our example was Kendall Jenner being booted by Estee Lauder. Too youthful an influencer for a product being marketed to a much more mature audience. The mistake grabbed several headlines, and quite frankly, neither of us could remember who replaced her. At least for us, the mistake by the brand was much more memorable than the fix. A brand has to be sure of what they are going to sell, and what influencer they pick should reflect their target audience and customer base. Brands have to know who they are, what they sell, and who is buying. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. It's been my privilege. Go be influential then, and tell someone you know who is fighting cancer to never give up. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.